Hello, everyone, and welcome to Super Podcast Action Committee, episode 174. Andrew Eisen here, along with Zachary Knight. Hello, Zachary.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Andrew. How are you
13,
doing?
I'm doing all right. 13U Cube says, I can't find the poll. That's because there is no poll. I didn't even, so busy this week, I didn't even think about the poll until like Thursday, and then I was, oh man, too late. So, no poll this week. Do apologize for that. And Matthew says he'd be okay with a Mother 3 release. Yes, and if they do release Mother 3 here, it's going to be called Earthbound Endings. Because they had Earthbound, which is Mother 2, and then they released the first one under the title Earthbound Beginnings. So I figure if they bring 3 over here, it'll be Earthbound Endings. I think we'll address something that 13U Cube is talking about, and this is something I actually have not looked into, but according to 13U Cube, in November's Nintendo Direct, Nintendo said that if you pre-order Twilight Princess HD, you get a soundtrack. And of course, then it came out that apparently the soundtrack is exclusive to GameStop? Is it GameStop? Yes, GameStop. Exclusive to GameStop, which doesn't do anybody any good because they're all sold out now anyway. 13U Cube loves soundtracks, so was thinking about pre-ordering, but them's the breaks. They're only available at GameStop and apparently sold out. So
that's all right. You can always download it later from certain disreputable sites.
Yes. So would we consider that false advertising? I don't technically know.
I don't think it's false advertising. I think
it is available via pre-order just at GameStop. I don't know if they unless they explicitly said available wherever you pre-order. I really have to go back and look at the direct, but 13U Cube, you said that you wrote Nintendo customer service and they kind of blew you off. If you wouldn't mind sharing the email, send it to us at Game Politics or superpackpodcast at gmail.com. Might look into it a bit next week and write a story if I think there's something there. Hopefully, as what Matthew's alluding to, hopefully whatever the soundtrack is, it comes on like a CD and isn't just 10 songs on a thumb drive with DRM that will break your PC, like a Xenoblade.
That was so annoying. Yeah. I didn't get it, but I would be sorely ticked off if I got a soundtrack like that. I still love I bought a copy of Radiant Historia for the DS, and I bought the copy that had the soundtrack. The soundtrack wasn't the complete soundtrack, but it was like 12 or 14 songs, and it came on a CD that I could just pop in a CD player, pop in my computer, rip the tracks off of, everything. It was great. I love that. And I love the soundtrack. The soundtrack to Radiant Historia is awesome, and I listen to it, as often as I listen to music, which isn't very often, but I do listen to it from time to time. So it's definitely worth it if you can still find a copy of Radiant Historia with the soundtrack.
And I hear the game is quite good too.
Oh, the game is great. Yeah, you should definitely get the game.
Is that the time travel one?
Yeah. It's the one where you jump back and forth between key events during the main character's timeline. So definitely a great game, and it hits a lot of game sites listed as one of their top JRPGs when they create those lists and stuff. So definitely well worth it. And if you're a fan of Chrono Trigger and such, it's really good. You'll like it.
Oh no. These people are fighting in my Terra video again. That video I did like 3 years ago. And
they fighting over pedo Andrew.
No, they're fighting over the Elins in Terra, and one person saying, "I don't even play the effing game, you donkey," and the other person says, "Well, spoken like a true pedophile, you disgust me." It's like, oh, I will behave, you people. I will moderate you later. By the way, anyone watching live, head over to gamepolitics.com and join in the live chat. And
yes,
after you're done watching all my videos, which are I'm really proud of that video. I like that video. It's a video on censorship and how silly it can be.
yep.
And
got some great characters in there.
Yeah. I play 3 different characters because Terra was censored. The Elans, the young-looking characters, were censored very, very slightly, which makes the whole thing. Which one of the reasons makes it so stupid. And the publishers were talking about the 3 types of people that they were worried about. That prompted their decision to censor the game before they released it in the West. And there are people who are really offended by the way those characters look, people who are going to troll people in game for playing as Elans, and pedophiles. So in the video, I play all 3 characters and kind of mock those straw men. Those 3 straw man archetypes, and I've always been really proud of that video. And occasionally, we still have censorship things coming up today, now and then, and I think maybe I should do a video. And I think I kind of said everything I wanted to say with that one. So, but I guess it's nice that people are still watching the video and still fighting about how you're a pedophile if you're defending the Elan's looks. Anyway. So, I would like to talk about a game that I'm playing this week, but there's a little bit of backstory to this game, which I will share with you now. 13UCube says, "Where's Proto Man Dan?" I don't know. I don't know. Not in the chat,
maybe
but I see.
Maybe he came in at
6 and it's like, where the hell is everybody? Yeah.
And then left, yeah.
So... all right, kids, buckle down because we must speak briefly of Anita Sarkeesian. Miss Sarkeesian released the latest entry in her Tropes vs. Women series this week, and it's all about butts.
Yes.
You may not have noticed in your video game playing exploits throughout your entire life, but in third-person 3D action 3D games, if the protagonist, the character you're controlling, is female, very often there's emphasis on the character's butt. Either the camera makes sure it's always framed right, it shakes back and forth with an exaggerated shimmy, the character's wearing really tight pants, or a combination of the 3. You may have noticed this if you've played video games. You may also have noticed that male characters, their butts are typically not emphasized.
Yeah.
Lady butts emphasized, boy butts not emphasized. I think we all knew this. What I found interesting about her video was the observation that not only are boy butts not typically emphasized, but they seem to, in some ways, be deliberately de-emphasized, which is something I never really thought about. And she gave a lot of examples where men, not only is the camera not really focused on their butt, but sometimes you can't jam the camera into a place to... in Bayonetta, you can get the camera to crawl up Bayonetta's butt pretty easy. In other games, it's shot over the shoulder. Or if you try to drive the camera up their butt, the bottom of the frame cuts off at their waist. They're often wearing long coats or capes or backpacks or big body armor or something like that. And I thought that was an interesting observation. Now, halfway through the video, she gives an example of male characters where the framing doesn't really allow you to focus on the butt. One of the examples she gave was Prince of Persia, the 2008 one. And she shows her trying to get the camera to go up and look at his butt, but the framing stops at the prince's waist. We wrote about this on Game Politics, her latest video, and also the fact that she's revamping her format and hopes to have the entire series done this year. which would be nice because it's
Boy,
that's a long project.
Yes, it is. She's been at it for quite a while.
Yeah. So, tropes versus women in video games should be done by the end of the year. Yay. So wrote about it on the site, posted about the article I wrote on Game Politics on Facebook, and was delighted to read multiple paragraph essays from dozens of people explaining in great detail just how much they don't care.
I know. It was hilarious.
I am constantly amazed by how much time and effort some people will put into making sure you know just how much they don't care. Me personally, I find it interesting because that's not how I work. Me personally, if I see an article that I'm not interested in, I scroll right on past it. I don't comment. Yep. I don't read it. I don't even click on the damn thing. I just scroll right past it. But hey, you do you. So, in addition to most of the silliness that you get in any Sarkeesian article, there was one person who commented on that scene in her video where she's showing how the camera acts in Prince of Persia. And the person said that Sarkeesian is an idiot liar who doesn't know what the hell she's talking about because the only reason the camera's acting like that is because it's jammed up against the wall. I went back and I looked at the video, and she is standing near a wall. So I thought, well, that seems kind of unlikely, but you know, it's possible. Mm-hmm. But who knows? Well, I know because I got the game. And I played it. I'm playing it right now, as a matter of fact. And that's what the camera does, whether you're next to the wall or whether you're out in the open. So, for what it's worth, yeah, that's what the camera does in this particular game. Which brings me to Prince of Persia. How is it? I've heard a lot of... I've wanted to play it for years. It did not... It came out in, I think, 2008. Did not come out on the Wii. Because the Wii is a generation behind 360 and PS3, which is sad because I've always enjoyed the Prince of Persia games.
Well, didn't the Wii have a Prince of Persia game?
Oh yes, it did. There was the 3 of them on the GameCube, and then there was one of them on the Wii. And they're all pretty fun. The new Prince of Persia is fun. It's okay. I would say it's probably the weakest of the entire new series. The biggest problem I have with it is the control is not as tight as Sands of Time and that series. In that series, man, tight control. You felt in absolute control of the prince. The environment was your playground, and everything you did was your choice, and it like a Nintendo platform. The controls were just tight and precise. The controls in 2008 version are really loose. I mean, the camera swings wildly. The prince does snap into place pretty well, so it's rarely that big of a problem. Also, the combat is not very fun, but and in fact, the combat's terrible. But there's not that much of it, so. One thing I found really interesting is the relationship between Prince and Elika, I think her name is, the tag-along character for the game. This guy is Nathan Drake a couple of years before Nathan Drake Draked. It is that exact personality, which, if you like that, it does make it fun. It's a little anachronistic, but it's still pretty well written and an interesting story. If you let them, there's the chat button, and if you hit the chat button, oh man, these two will just chat forever. And I'm the kind of guy who will listen to every damn line of dialogue in a game, so the game's probably taken me a little bit longer than it would otherwise. But overall, a little on the easy side. I think the environmental designers got a little crazy with marking the paths. When you design 3D environments, you want to make sure that it's clear that a player can read what you can climb, what you can walk on, what you can't. And in this game, for example, the wall run, every place where you wall run is there's like this path worn into the wall, like everybody wall runs. It's how they get to work, you know? And that's another thing is
I know what you're talking about, because like in Nathan Drake, there's always that line of ledges that you can jump across. Yeah.
13 Cube says, I don't want to see dude butt. Well, then don't play Metal Gear Solid, because man, oh man, does Snake have a emphasized and defined butt. So, where was I? Oh, Prince of Persia. So, another interesting thing is Elika. I think her name's Elika, your tag-along friend. Man, she just keeps up with you. She can do remember Farah in the original? She was fine, but she's like, dude, I can't run along a wall. What do you want from me? I can climb. I'll do pull-ups all day, buddy, but I can't defy gravity. You're going to have to figure out a way to get me to you. And that's how some of the puzzles in the game work. In this one, Elika just follows you around everywhere, which kind of makes me feel less special. It's like everyone can just run along a wall. It's no, oh, Prince, you can run along a wall? That's how I get to work every day. That's nothing special. They do have some new parkour moves in this game. One of them is, they're like, oh, there's the wall run. Get this, the ceiling run.
A ceiling run. Nice.
That one, you know what? The wall run is ridiculous. You have to suspend your disbelief to accept it. And I do, but the ceiling run, I think, is just a little bit too far.
I could, I don't know. You run up a ceiling. I don't know. I could see that happening, of course.
Well, Prince has a razor-tipped finger razor-tipped gauntlet on his right or left hand, and he uses that a little bit, I guess, to slide down a wall. I'm not sure what it's for. He doesn't really use it to slash in combat. He doesn't really use it to climb around, and Elika doesn't have one, and she doesn't seem to need one. So I don't know. But I am rather, except for the the combat sucks, but there's not too much of it. I tell you, there was one thing that almost made me just stop the game. And if we didn't live in the internet age, I would have stopped. There are the switch puzzles where there's a turnstile that you have to turn clockwise or counterclockwise to rotate these things so you can climb on them. Well, there's two of these switches, so you have to run back and forth, rotating one counterclockwise and going to get the other one clockwise to manipulate the environment so you can climb up. A couple problems with this. One, for some reason, the game never prompts you to tell you what damn button it is that grabs the turnstile. Not that big a deal. I figured it out. Two, when you run over to the other side and grab the turnstile, Elika just stands on the other side and is like, oh, a butterfly. Huh? Oh, you need me. Okay. And she just kind of warps over to you. It's like, why aren't you running? Follow me, you pain in the butt. Every time you walk to the other one, she will stay by the other one until you grab on, and then she'll just warp over to you. And the other problem is I still cannot figure out which direction I'm supposed to push on the control stick to get it to go clockwise or counterclockwise. I'm trying to do a constant direction or relative to the camera, and I'd hold the same direction and he'd go counterclockwise, and then he'd reverse the other way. I'm like, no, I will kill you. And I almost said, you know what, I am not playing this. Luckily, I pulled up GameFAQs or something who says, turn this one once counterclockwise, because I wasn't about to play with this. Just give me the solution so I can get past it, because, oh, that sequence sucks. But other than that, not too bad a game. The game is based on healing. The corruption has spread across the land, which I guess is Persia, and you must heal the fertile gardens one by one, and there's 24 of them or something. And that's a gameplay mechanic that I have always really liked, is restoring an area to its former glory. Like restoring the areas in Okami, or rebuilding Colony 9 in Xenoblade, or building up your base in Skies of Arcadia. In one of the Tales games, this city gets leveled, and the more you work on it, it's restored to its form. I've always loved mechanics like that. So the game does
that's something
press a few
that
of my
I've
happy
liked
buttons.
too. Yeah. You know, the restoration thing is something I've liked. Soul Blazer, which is the precursor to Illusion of Gaia on the Super Nintendo. It did that a lot. Or it had areas where you restored Terra Enigma, which is the game that came after Illusion of Gaia, did the same thing but on a more global scale. And it's something that you know, I myself have, I'm planning on doing the same thing in one of the games that I'm developing. You know, Shattered Star. You know, the game. You know, you fight, you defeat monsters, and as you do so, the main town, slowly restores. You know, people come back to life and all that stuff. So, you know, it's something that I've always liked and want to do myself in some games. It's not something that I'll use in every game, because, you know, overusing a mechanic like that just kind of gets annoying after a while, unless you can really do something different each time, you know, make it a unique experience each time. But it's definitely it was something I want to do, you know, from time to time. But yeah.
So playing anything interesting this week?
No, I haven't. I've been installing some games on my computer. I told you this before we started the broadcast, but a while ago, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, my hard drive crashed on my laptop. It was a 500 gig hard drive, and it completely crashed. And the only hard drive I had on hand was a 120 gig hard drive. And so that's what I had been using for nearly 2 months. And I couldn't install very many games. I had a handful of games installed on there, but I didn't want to take up too much room. But this past week, I finally got a terabyte solid state hard drive in there that we had bought around Christmas time, I think, because it was on sale on Amazon. So it was really awesome. But so I've been going through my Steam list and installing stuff, but I haven't gotten around to playing anything yet. But I did find a couple of things interesting. I'm going through my Humble Bundle game list. And so I was starting to put games, activate Steam keys that I didn't have. And the first 3 pages or 3 or 4 pages of Steam keys had these little gift icons next to them. It's like, oh, that's cool. So any games that I don't actually use, I could gift the Steam keys for. And then I got through a couple of pages of this, and then I went to the end. It's like I have 10 pages of Steam keys and other various keys like Desura and a couple other stores. But I get there, get to the end, and I notice that there's a whole bunch of Steam keys that don't have the gift icon. And there's duplicate Steam keys. And it's like, I'm looking at this, I'm like, man, these non-giftable Steam keys I could have used to activate these games on my Steam account and then given away these other ones. So I'm like, I should have started it. If I knew this, I would have started at the end of my list and worked my way forward, because that would have left me with more games to gift away at some point. But so I'm a little sad that I used up some of the giftable ones. But the other interesting thing that happened to me was, as I was activating Steam keys, I got through about 20, 25 activations, and then it stopped letting me activate Steam keys. It told me that I have reached the limit of bad activation codes, or where I messed it up. Mm-hmm. But it's like that happened to me like after 5 successful activation attempts in a row. Mm-hmm. And so I had to wait for a couple hours before I could continue activating Steam keys. And apparently, and I did some looking and found some threads on on this a couple of years ago that said there was a bug in Steam at that time where it counted every activation against your failed activation attempts. And so once you hit like 25 activation attempts, whether they were successful or not, it treated as if you activated or had too many failed activations and you had to wait. So, yeah. So apparently they haven't quite fixed that one yet. Because I did have a few bad activations where I tried activating games that I already had, or I tried to use a code that wasn't actually for Steam. Like I accidentally clicked on a Desurus code and tried to put that in. But yeah, so all kinds of interesting. I learn new stuff every day. But the other thing that happened to me this past week was I tried to add a friend on Steam and I couldn't find that person. And I tried to have them look me up and they couldn't find me either. So I don't know what's going on there. It's like I can't find this friend, they can't find me, so we can't become friends on Steam. Really weird.
It's still easier than being friends on the Wii U.
True. Yes, that is very true. But yeah, that's been my week. I haven't actually played any games this week, unfortunately.
All right. Well, let us move on to the topics. We have no poll this week, and that's totally my fault. But we did have some articles on game politics. That's what I was working on.
Yes, we did. That's always good.
So, okay, first topic is Warner Brothers and Mortal Kombat X. So earlier this week, Warner Brothers released a trailer for Mortal Kombat XL, which is essentially their Game of the Year edition of Mortal Kombat X. And they had a trailer that says, every fatality, every costume, spelled with a K, every skin, every combo, every nut punch is in this version. If you pre-order. It was funny because I watched this whole thing. I'm like, well, that's kind of neat. I'm sure it's still overpriced, but whatever. And it gets to where all the company logo and the console logos and all that crap, and then it switches pre-order to get these costumes. I'm like, dude, you said everything, and I guess technically that's true, but it comes with a caveat of you have to pre-order it to get everything. And even then, I think you're still missing the golden scorpion costume or whatever the exclusive skin was when you got the special collector's edition when the game first came out. So it's still a little inaccurate, but
yeah.
Anyway.
Of course.
So it's available as standalone. It's also available for people who own Mortal Kombat X and want to upgrade. So there you go. Now, here's a funny thing. Warner Brothers has sucked up a storm as far as PC releases go in the last year. Mortal Kombat X itself was, from what I read, very problematic. Some reviewers said they couldn't even get the damn thing to work. And they had another patch which fixed some things and broke others. I think people were losing saves. And of course, this follows on the tail of the absolute horrible Batman Arkham Knight. Which was so bad it actually got yanked off of Steam for 4 months, then put back, and it still didn't work. And then Warner Brothers said, okay, refunds for anyone who wants them. And if I'm remembering correctly, I think Shadows of Mordor had PC problems too. So
not as bad as Arkham Knight, or
not as bad as Arkham Knight. I mean, it stayed on the service, but refunds weren't available back then, so that might have been why. I think at this point, Warner Brothers might just say, you know what, we suck at PC, and now with the ability to refund, maybe we shouldn't even bother with PC releases. And that seems to be exactly what they're doing with Mortal Kombat XL, because Combat Pack 2, the pack that includes the new characters and the standalone, the Mortal Kombat XL edition of the game, are console only. They are not available for the PC. So to all the Mortal Kombat X customers on PC. Warner Brothers says, on the other hand, it probably wouldn't have worked anyway. So maybe that'll make you feel better. So
yeah,
I don't know if it's a matter of Warner Brothers just hiring out the wrong damn developer to make their PC ports, or what's going on.
Who knows? It's who actually knows? They aren't taking PC seriously, I guess. You know, they're treating it as you know, the redheaded stepchild. It's like, yeah, you're not dead yet, so you're good. Yeah. But yeah, there's no excuse for these you know, terrible ports. Yeah, I you know, if I actually cared about Mortal Kombat or Batman Arkham Knight on the PC, yeah, I would be really ticked, and I'm ticked off for all the PC people who are missing out on actually being able to play these games, because you know, there's no reason they shouldn't be able to play them.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you know, I can understand if it doesn't work on some random guy's you know, rig that nobody else has, you know, or some obscure graphics card or older graphics card or something. I can understand that stuff, but 90% of the PCs out there, if it's not working on 90% of the PCs, you're doing something wrong. Yeah.
Well, WB's like, well, do you have 12 gigs of RAM? Minimum?
Of course, doesn't everybody?
What? Really? Wow. So the game won't run unless you have a minimum of 12 gigs of RAM? Wow. What? Did you transmit that from the future? So,
yeah. I've got 10 gigs of RAM in my laptop, and that's only because it came with 8, and then it had two extra slots. And my wife's laptop, we had upgraded its RAM from 2 gigs to 8 gigs. And so I put the extra 2 gigs in my laptop, and you know, it's nice having 10 gigs, but if I had 16 gigs, that would be awesome.
It would be even
better. I don't have 16 gigs. I have 10 gigs. I don't have 12 gigs, so I can't play it if it requires 12 gigs.
Matthew's a 1%. He has 12 gigs. I have no idea how many gigs I have. I'm not a PC gamer, so I don't really care. I mean, I certainly care for PC community, but I mean, just I'm a console gamer, so these are things that don't really affect me because I wasn't going to play them on PC anyway. So let's move on to a new topic, and I'm inserting this one because I just want to talk about it, and that is the Nintendo NX rumors that hit this week. Because I think someone asked about that earlier. And one of the biggest rumors is now the 13U Cube says if you pre-order the Nintendo of America version, you get the whole game censored. What? Mortal Kombat X? Mortal Kombat X is, well, no, it's not for everything but Wii U because it's not on PS3 or 360, so... But it's not on.
Yeah, I'm like trying to figure that out. I guess he's just trying to be funny, but
Nintendo did have that really crappy censored version of Mortal Kombat on the Super NES way back in the day, where they colored all the blood kind of a gray color and called it sweat. It's like,
yeah,
really, guys, come on. Anyway, so new NX rumors. The big one is that the NX will be 2 pieces, a handheld and a console component that will not only be sold separately, but will be sold at 2 different times. The handheld component will come out this fall, around probably November or something, for around $200, and the console component will be out sometime in 2017. So now that certainly leads into the rumors of some type of hybrid console, and some people even thought that the console would indeed be a like a console, and maybe the controller was a handheld that you could take with you. But this is the first time I heard anyone say that it's sold separately and will launch in different quarters. That was really new to me. So it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's an interesting idea, but I honestly don't think that that would actually.
Well, yeah, I'm not feeling it at this point, but there's some interesting things to consider. If it is if the NX is actually a two-component system, a console and a handheld piece, could they sell it separately, and would that be a good idea? Well,
they could sell it separately. Yes, there's nothing to stop them from selling it separately.
If selling them together would be prohibitively expensive for a lot of people, like if it was $500, this might be a great way to break that up. Say it's only a $200 handheld, and then you hook people in with that, with great games and great features and great service and the promise of greater things to come. And then the console version hits next spring for $200 or $300, and suddenly it's not $500. It doesn't feel as much, so you can budget and plan for it. Maybe also they might have to do something like that if developers aren't currently working on NX titles, because if they're not working on NX console titles, they're not going to have anything available or ready for launch in the fall. So they may have to do it that way just to give developers time to make good games. It's an interesting idea. I would
say, now, it is an interesting idea, and I could see where the pros would be, but depending on how Nintendo actually plans on the NX working, like, say the rumor, where it's a combo console and handheld, and they're supposed to work together, but if they can work separately, you run the risk of splitting your market. You're splitting your audience, where you have the handheld people, the console people, and the people who have both. And if the goal of the NX is to target people who have both, then you're just going to have a bunch of developers who aren't happy because now they have to make 3 separate versions of their game. One that can work on the handheld on its own, one that can work on the console on its own, and one that can work with both together. Yeah. And I don't see any developer wanting to do that at all. And you're either going to have them choosing one of the 3 or just not developing for the Wii U at all. Or the NX at all.
Just speaking selfishly, and I've said this before, but I worry about some type of hybrid system being handicapped by the fact that it's a hybrid system. I don't want my games handicapped by the fact that they also have to work on some type of handheld device. I also don't want my controller handicapped by the fact that it also has to be a portable device that you can fold or put in your pocket, or at least easily transport with you. So
there's a lot of downfalls to that. Well, I really hope that whatever Nintendo does, they don't do something as dumb as having both systems work together and kind of be the optimal situation, but selling them separately. That's been the folly of pretty much every every peripheral for video games. If a peripheral comes out after the console is released and it's sold on its own, you basically have only the games that came out with the peripheral that actually work with the peripheral at any given time. It happened with the Kinect. After like the first year at most of the Kinect being out on the Xbox 360, there wasn't a single game developed for it. The same. The PlayStation Eye and Move, same thing. U-Draw is probably the most expensive and and largest failure of any peripheral game ever, where it came out and it was just the one game with a $60 or something along those lines peripheral that you didn't use for any other games ever. And then you got Rock Band and Guitar Hero, which had 500 games each, but still they were just Rock Band and Guitar Hero. You didn't have any other games outside of those franchises that use those peripherals. So yeah.
Now, selfishly, I would prefer the NX just be a dedicated home console, because I don't care about handheld gaming. Handheld gaming can go the hell away for all I care, and all the games can come to the console, and we can stop worrying about it. But
handheld gaming is great. I like handheld gaming. I don't spend a whole lot of time on it, but it allows allows developers to make games that they wouldn't normally make because they just aren't a good fit for consoles. I talked about Radiant Historia earlier. That is a very, very classic retro styled JRPG. It doesn't have snazzy 3D graphics and particle effects and stuff. It's a pure 2D game. And that's just not something that a AAA developer or even a AA developer is going to do on a console. Of course, an indie developer is going to do that kind of stuff, and they do it all the time. But a large developer is just not going to do that. But a handheld gives them that opportunity to make a game like that without feeling like they're cheating themselves by making it for a console. I guess. So I think handhelds have their place, and they're well
they
worth
absolutely
it.
Do.
If you don't mind playing it on a little screen. So,
I do.
Yeah,
I would much. Radiant Historia would be better on the TV.
I could see it. I would play Radiant Historia on the television, but it does use the two screens of the DS pretty well. It's not like it doesn't use the touch screen intensely. Like it could work really the Wii U's gamepad and the TV screen, it would work really well there. Just just a straight translation from the DS to the Wii U, but like just on the Wii, it wouldn't work. Without refactoring the UI completely.
Yeah. So who the heck knows? We'll see. Nintendo, if they're releasing something this fall, they got to start talking about it at some point. If only because if it's releasing this fall, people are working on games and it's going to leak before too long anyway. So they may as well get up in front with this. So I would imagine that we'll see something this fall, whether it's the entire NX or just part of it. I think we will see.
We will definitely see an announcement at E3.
I think there will be the big games and stuff blowout out at E3, but I think there will also be some type of direct or press conference or announcement or something prior to E3, at least announcing the system and the time frame and the idea behind it, and especially if it's something complicated that requires explanation, because lest people be really confused. What is this mysterious thing I don't understand? Just something to introduce. Here's what NX is. Here's what the name is. Here's what it is, what it does, the major selling point of it. At E3, we'll talk about all the awesome games that you're going to play, and it comes out this fall. So I think that's probably along the lines of what we'll see. And 13UCube is saying that retro needs to start talking. I agree. I want more retro games because retro is awesome at games, and they need more. Yeah, I want to know what they're doing, and in some way, if they're doing another,
I hope they're making I hope they're making a Metroid game. Of course, it would be awesome if they were doing something new, but I would like to see them doing a Metroid game because they knocked it out of the park with
the Prime,
and Team Ninja just fell flat on their face with Metroid Other M.
With the story and characterization, the game was fun to play.
Yeah, but it was just it was kind of a low point for Metroids. I think it's probably on everybody's ranking of Metroid games from best to worst, it's probably the last on the list for pretty much everybody, which is sad because Metroid Pinball beats it. But
Metroid Pinball is pretty damn good. I mean that's it. We're not insulting. You're not insulting him and say, well, it's not as good as Metroid Pinball. Well, Metroid Pinball's good. So, I mean, surprisingly. Another thing I'd like to point out is there's a rumor that a new Paper Mario game from Intelligent Systems for the Wii U is on the way. And I would like to say that this pleases me greatly, unless it's an HD version of Paper Mario or 1,000 Year Door, then I will be bummed out because I own both of them.
That's something that's kind of bothering me is Nintendo's remaking or doing HD remakes of a lot of its older games onto the Wii U and the 3DS.
They're probably stalling for time while they work on the new hardware.
That could be it. They're trying to keep games coming onto the 3DS and the Wii U while they're prepping the NX to be announced. But still,
I can respect that. Not everyone's as old as us and has played all these games that they're remaking. So.
Yeah, but it does kind of. To me, it makes it sound like Nintendo's pretty much given up on these systems for the most part. The 3DS still gets a lot of love, like a lot of new titles and stuff, but it's still getting a fair number of HD remakes or 3D remakes, I guess is what you would call them. But the Wii U is getting pretty much everything as an HD remake.
Yeah, Matthew says, I hope it's an HD version. They shouldn't waste developer resources on the Wii U. While on the same token, I don't think they should be wasting Intelligent Systems or developer resources on HD versions. I'd rather new games. I'm old. I've played these games.
Yeah. Well, even if it is a brand new game, they could be making the Wii U and the NX version in tandem, and be like a Twilight Princess was between the GameCube and the Wii. So, something along those lines. Yeah.
So let us move on and actually talk about one of the topics that I was planning on talking about in the first place, and that is Yandere Simulator. Which I
had to look that up, but
the game, Yandere Simulator.
The term Yandere.
The term Yandere.
I was just like,
it's a portmanteau of Yanderu and Dere. One means psychotic or sick or troubled, mentally.
Yeah, TV tropes listed.
And the other one
it refers to a character who is crazy about someone else, often literally and violently.
Yeah, a yandere is an anime character, a stereotypical archetype anime character who is unreasonably infatuated and in love with some person and will go to extremes, sometimes even violent extremes, to win their affection. That's Yandere. So Yandere Simulator is about a high school girl who has a crush on her senpai, and it's kind of like Hitman in the sense that you sneak around and you kill off without anyone noticing all of the rival girls who might compete for senpai's affections. And this game has been in development for almost 2 years now, and the guy developing it runs a blog at WordPress. I think it's yanderedev.wordpress.com or something like that. And recently, this week, just found out that Yandere Simulator is now banned from. Your account will be banned if you stream this game on Twitch, which is kind of weird because while the game. There is blood in the game, there is murder in the game, and there's some very dark things in the game, like bullying someone to the point where they commit suicide, kidnapping a girl and psychologically torturing her until she does your murderous bidding, all kinds of things like that. It's very cartoony, and there are a lot of games that you can stream on Twitch that I personally think are way, way, way worse than Yandere Simulator. So it makes really you end up wondering, why the hell is this game not okay when Manhunt is okay, all the Grand Theft Auto games are okay, and on and on and on. Even sexy games like Witcher and Mass Effect to a lesser extent, or, well, Grand Theft Auto games, there's some bumping and grinding in those.
Well, I think, when it comes to sexual content in those games, I think it's just the nature of the fact that that's not the focus of the game itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's a focus of certain side missions and side activities, but it's not the game itself. The game itself isn't about its sexual content. So that's probably where they're kind of treating that when it comes to the sexual content.
Well, there's no sexual content in the game. There's no nudity either. The girls can, all the characters can shower, but all their private parts are obscured by steam clouds and bubble bath bubbles and things like that. So, Laxter says Twitch's ban list is getting bigger. I thought there were only like 2 or 3 titles on it. No, there's about 12.5 games on the list. But the worst thing about this whole thing, to me, from a selfish point, is Yandere Dev, we don't know who it is, but he just goes by Yandere Dev, says that he was thinking about streaming his development of the game so we could watch him code. I'm a big dork for behind the scenes stuff, so I would have loved to see that, but unfortunately, he can still do that on Ustream or Hitbox or something, but it's just a damn shame because Twitch is the dominant streaming service, and Twitch is not talking to anyone. He can't get Twitch to talk to him and tell him what specifically it had a problem with. Yandere Dev says that he'd be willing to make some alterations, like make the obscuring steam clouds bigger if it was a nudity thing, or if it's a school thing, he can call it an academy if that makes him feel better. He says he's not willing to cut out any content or any gameplay mechanics. But if Twitch would just talk to him and tell him what specifically the problem was, maybe they could come to some sort of can you hear my voice echoing? Because I hear myself repeated in my earphones. I'm not coming through your speakers, am I?
No, I don't hear you. I don't hear you echoing. Sometimes I hear myself echoing when I'm talking, but but as you were saying, that is the big problem. Twitch needs to talk to these developers. The developer wants to talk. Twitch needs to talk to them and tell them what it is that they have a problem with. It's one thing to just put it up on a list and let gamers say, "Oh man, I can't play that game." It's another thing to not give the developers a chance to address whatever their concerns are. Especially if it's if it comes down to something as simple as, if you change this title and make these steam clouds thicker, you'll be okay. But if they're not going to tell them anything, there's nothing that can be done. And Twitch just comes out looking like the bad guy.
Right. Even for just its own image. Even if Twitch came out and said, look, this game is gross, we don't want it on our service, end of story. Okay. Fine. You're a dork, but fine. That's at least a reason. But you have to wonder if this is just one guy who doesn't understand what Yandere Simulator is, because they've done that before. Senran Kagura, or whatever it's called, was originally mistaken for an erotic visual novel and was banned at one point, and then they said that's not what the game is, and they said, oh, okay, it's fine. Well, as long as you're following our terms of service, as long as you're not focusing on sexual content, you can go ahead and stream the game. So maybe it's something like that. Hi, Hal. We're almost done. Which is good because I can hear the echo. So I do apologize that we have an echo for some reason. So last topic. Fire Emblem Fates came out in Japan last spring and comes out here next month, I think, in February. February 19th or something like that. When the game came out in Japan, a few people imported it, and there was a particular sequence in the game that caught some controversy. There is a sequence, and I have seen this translated several times, so I'm relying on other people's translation of this particular sequence. And it's like 3 or 4 separate sequences. So essentially, this side story goes like this. There is a young woman who gets incredibly flustered around cute girls. She goes out on the battlefield, and anytime she's around any of the cute girls in her squad, she gets really flustered and is prone to fainting, which is probably not something you want to do on the battlefield. So she says to her buddy that she wants to be a cool and awesome commander that the other girls can look up to, but instead she just gets all flustered and faints. So her friend,
her male friend
slips a, unbeknownst to her but knownst to him, slips some type of magic powder into her drink that alters her perception so that she perceives men as women and women as men. Which is weird because that wouldn't solve the problem at all, because there are also dudes out on the battlefield, so whatever. But the idea is, okay, now you see me as a girl, so you can, you know, get close to me because you trust me and you can practice on me until you build up your confidence or whatever it is you need up, and then you can hang out with the other girls and not faint. So she does, and she falls in love with the guy as a woman, and then the potion wears off and they get married and have a kid. Now, there were 2 things that people found a bit uncomfortable about this. One is the fact that this guy drugs her without her consent, permission, or knowledge. He slips a perception-altering magic potion in her drink. And that's creepy and skeezy and sleazy as all get out to begin with. Especially since this guy is not framed as a creepy, skeezy, sleazy guy. This is supposed to be cute and lighthearted and fun. But that's like, dude, you just drug this woman. And the other part is, some people found the story to be kind of to have elements of gay conversion therapy, as in we're doing it because you're obviously gay, but we're going to do this so that you are not gay, so that you fall in love with them. It's not exactly gay conversion therapy, of course, but it is kind of weird because you have a woman who, from what I've read, it's not explicitly stated that she's homosexual, but it's pretty clear that she's not bi, because she's very interested in women and doesn't seem to have the same interest in men. But she falls in love with the guy when he appears as a woman, and she does mention this in the dialogue I've seen translated, that he says, well, did you only fall in love with me when I was a girl? And she goes, yeah, but that doesn't matter because I love you anyway. Fine. There's also another line of dialogue that he has I've seen translated similarly in 2 or 3 different places, and he says something along the lines of, haha, well, at least I know you're not going to cheat on me because you're not interested in other men. I don't know if that's a correct translation or not, but dude, tone deaf. So, Nintendo. Let me pull up the. Here we go. So, Nintendo has. People have been asking what Nintendo might do with this scene in the localization, and Nintendo said, in the version of the game that ships in the US and Europe, there is no expression which might be considered as gay conversion or drugging that occurs between characters. Now, of course, almost every single outlet I read this story at reported it as
Nintendo. It's Fire Emblem Fates.
Fire Emblem Fates.
Asking what game?
Yeah, Fire Emblem Fates. Nearly every single outlet I saw this reported at reported it as Nintendo is removing a scene from the game, which is not what Nintendo said. That may actually end up being what Nintendo does. That may actually end up happening, but that is not what Nintendo said. Shame on all you outlets. Bad journalists. Ethics in games journalism. Get on this, Gamergate. This is right in your wheelhouse. It's a bug in my butt. So many publications that I really respect just, to me, drop the ball on this because they all reported it as they cut a scene from the game. No, that's not what maybe they have, but that's not what the information we have right now is. So, I don't think Nintendo's going to remove the entire scene from the game because that's, well,
probably not.
Going to do, because it's completely unnecessary. Based on the several translations I have read, this could be fixed really easily just with a very few, very subtle tweaks to the dialogue.
Yeah, like, for instance, instead of him drugging her without her knowledge, he can say, "Hey, I've got this potion, that will change your perception and help you work this out," something along those lines, and make it consensual that she takes this potion.
Make it her choice. That's pretty much all you have to change. He's like, "Well, I have a potion that'll do this," and then you could just, because you trust me, you could hang out with me. Would that help? And she could say, "Dude, let's try that."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great. And
the story, she falls in love with the guy as a girl and then marries him as a guy anyway. But as long as she's okay with that, hey, it's kind of weird. There are certainly some think pieces worth writing here, but I think that really takes care of the main problem in that. I don't think doing that is censorship. I don't think that's a violation of the original artistic intent, because I believe the original artistic intent is these are both good people and this is a fun, wacky story. But the way it's presented, at least the way it's translated, it becomes a little creepy, and this guy looks like a sleazy jerk, which is not what he's supposed to look like. So making a subtle dialogue tweak so that this guy isn't drugging another person, I think keeps the original intention and spirit of the game.
Yeah, and plus, I don't see Nintendo cutting this, because based on the translation, these interactions actually have an impact on the relationship that these characters have in battle.
Yes.
So that's another thing. In a game like Fire Emblem, where you pick your characters based on how they cooperate with one another, is a big thing, and so you don't want to remove something that builds on that relationship.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, very similar to Valkyria Chronicles, where, I got the name right. Where occasionally you'll have a scene where two of the main characters will be talking, during some downtime, and then it comes up that says, these guys work together better. And that's the kind of stuff that is great. And we definitely don't want to lose that kind of stuff, because then you're missing out on part of the actual game.
So I don't think this is a huge deal. I think simply just a slight adjustment to make taking the potion her choice is really all you need, and that. I don't feel that censorship. I feel that's a proper piece of localization that makes sure that the original artistic intent of the scene is preserved for the localized release. And that, to me, is the point of localization. Which is not to say that no one's going to write an editorial about gay erasure, erasure of homosexuality or homosexual characters, things like that. And there are things to talk about there. But I don't think I think removing the scene wholesale would be absolutely the wrong move. So hopefully Nintendo does not do
that. Hopefully.
Yes. Yeah. So okay, that is our show for the evening. For the week. So not like we're going to have another one tomorrow morning. So we are done.
No, right. Definitely not.
So, yes, let us. What do I have to do tomorrow? Oh man, there's. It seems to me I have something that I'm doing tomorrow, and I can't remember what it is. Oh no, I think it's next week. I think there's a fermentation festival that my friend wants to go to. And I said, is it
fermentation
festival? I'm like, is it beer? Because I don't drink. And she says, well, neither do I, but it's all kinds of fermented foods. I'm like, that sounds gross. She says, do you want to go? And I said, okay.
Do you remember Fear Factor, that television show?
Sure. Yeah.
Part of that was just eating a bunch of gross foods from around the world, and there was quite often fermented foods, like fermented squid guts or something like that was one popular thing on there, and 100-year-old eggs or whatever, or 100-day-old eggs or whatever they're called, and
yeah, it's gonna
really
be
gross stuff in there.
Stuff, and she's like, "Do you want to go?" And I'm thinking, "No, that sounds really gross." Are they gonna have? You're gonna get there and gonna be, where's my fermented pizza and fermented cheeseburgers and fermented corn dogs? So, all right, let us plug our stuff and get out of here. Andrew Eisen here, E-I-S-E-N. The last name. Plug it into YouTube. You'll find all my silly YouTube videos like Terra Censorship Solves Everything, where people continue to fight and call each other pedophiles. So I'm going to have to put on my moderator cap and go in there again.
Yeah.
Also, follow me on Twitter at Andrew Eisen, and my Facebook page is Andrew Eisen YouTube. So knock yourselves out. Zachary, plug away.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at EZKnight, and you can also follow my game development work. It's DK_gaming on Twitter. It's DivineKnightGaming.com. And if you're interested in the Oklahoma game development scene, check out OK Game Devs on Twitter and OKGameDev.com. So there you go.
All right, so you've been listening to episode 174 of Super Podcast Action Committee. And we'll be back next week. In the meantime, send us email at superpackpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at superpackpodcast. Subscribe and rate us on iTunes, where you can find at least the 10 most recent episodes. I'm going to look into seeing if we can't get the entire show archive on there, but that may or may not be a limitation, not sure. And like us on Facebook. So we are out of here. Have a lovely week, y'all. Bye-bye.
All right. See ya.